Hey everybody, today we are going to be talking about actors and actresses who we consider to be overrated and why. I do these overrated topic videos on occasion, and it's not necessarily to be negative or to bash an artist or anything like that. It's more to, at least from my perspective, it is to open up the discussion. I just always find it interesting when maybe I really connect with an artist and somebody else just really opposes them and they have all these counter arguments to my arguments, and that, again, I think it's interesting. It opens up the mind a little bit. But before we get into that, I'm going to plug my website. As always, it is deepfocuslens.com. I'm an artist. I do commission portraits and I sell prints of my work. If that's something that you're into, you can always go to the website below. And if you have a question about a commission or a print, you can email me. My email is in the description box below as well. And I'd also like to give a huge thank you to my Patreon members who are fantastic, and welcome to all the new members. If you are interested in supporting that, the link for that is below as well. Okay, we'll start with the first one. Ryan Reynolds. I hate the snark. Yeah, I also struggle with the snark of Ryan Reynolds. I don't have anything against him. He's obviously charismatic and talented. He has a tendency to be strong at, like, comedy, that sort of thing. But I don't consider him to be necessarily a versatile performer or a performer that really pushes himself, and that's fine. That's not really his thing. I think he's very into his brand. He's very into what he offers as a movie star. And, obviously having the wife that he does, it's all about the familial brand with him and her. But on occasion, you just get the perfect role that is tailor-made for you. And I think that that's what happened to Ryan Reynolds. And I think his snark works brilliantly in something like Deadpool. Obviously, his cadence, everything about the way that he speaks, it just lends itself to this kind of humor. So it's pitch perfect. But as a personality, even on talk shows, that sort of thing, there's something about him that is very removed. And I find it a little bit annoying. The self-awareness of him is a little bit off-putting to me, but also the humor is just, it's a little bit cringy. It comes off as the type of humor that, like, millennials with little kids in the suburbs probably love, get a kick out of it. And again, that is his brand, so I suppose he's, appealing to the right people. But for me, there's just something about him where he's emotionally cold. It's like I never feel anything from him. He never feels like an actual human to me. He feels like a brand. Gwyneth Paltrow. I have never seen her in a movie where she has impressed me or really sold the character that she was playing. She's very beautiful and has the typical movie star look, but as an actress, she's not very diverse and does not have that much range. Her Oscar win for Shakespeare in Love, 1999, has always perplexed me. So I strongly disagree with this. I think Gwyneth Paltrow is actually one of the strongest actresses of her generation, strongest movie stars of her generation. I think the reason that she is hated these days, though, is not necessarily for her talent. It's just because of the kind of celebrity that she has become. And, I admit, it's something that I struggle with too, the goop thing. And she's often the butt of the joke, often in the middle of a lot of controversial situations and headlines, that sort of thing. But if you divorce all of that and just look at her as a talent, I think it's really sad, because I think that's what she should be doing. I wish she was still acting. I wish she was doing interesting work like she did in the 1990s. And of course, it is her right. She can do whatever she wants with her life. But it's funny because I watched an interview with James Gray, who I think is a very underrated movie director. And he's worked with Gwyneth Paltrow. And he said the same thing. He found Gwyneth to be one of the strongest actresses he had ever worked with. Her instincts, her ability to improv, her creativity on the spot. He said that she was marvelous and that she could hold her own against people like Joaquin Phoenix easily. Watch some of the work that she did in the 1990s and in the mid-2000s, and I think it's really, really strong work. You mentioned here Shakespeare in Love, and yeah, I don't think that's her best performance or anything, but I don't think that's a reason to judge her for being a bad actress. The success of Shakespeare in Love at the Academy Awards had basically everything to do with Harvey Weinstein and his Oscar campaigning that was carried through for many, many years. He basically wrote the rule book on it. And Gwyneth Paltrow was his starlet puppet that he, put in all the magazines and got her in all the talk shows, and that is how she became the star that she is. That is just how the industry works. It's very typical. I will actually mention what my father said. My dad is a huge Gwyneth Paltrow fan. He has been ever since she became a star. And he defends her in her later endeavors as a celebrity. He says, you know what? Yes, Gwyneth is delusional. Yes, she is out of touch. Yes, she can be incredibly cringy. But compared to a lot of celebrities in her position, she has fun with it. She shakes it off. She doesn't take it too seriously. She doesn't sit there just, brooding over her haters. And you know what? He's right about that. I gotta give her credit. It is very funny, and I do, again, find it so sad that that's what she is more known for these days. But I do hope, many years from now, it will be the work that she did, her movies that people will remember. Sandra Bullock repeatedly makes the strangest single acting decisions which define her roles in the movies. 95% of Gravity is hyperventilating. Yeah, so Sandra Bullock is a very perplexing person because I find her immensely talented, but at a specific thing. And when she goes outside of that thing, she really reveals her weaknesses, at least to me. I do agree with you. She picks all kinds of different roles that are all over the map. And in a way, I admire that. I admire her boldness to challenge herself. She's been in a lot of really good movies, a lot of really, really bad movies. And I honestly think the ones that are really bad, they're often classics or cult classics because she is just really charismatic. She just has an ease about her on screen and she's naturally really funny. And that's the point about Sandra Bullock, is her humor. She's just great at the slapstick stuff. This is so random, but I, for some reason, saw the movie 2 Weeks Notice over and over when I was young. And, I don't like that movie, especially nowadays, and I really struggle with Hugh Grant's performance in it. He's going to caricature Hugh Grant, in my opinion, but Sandra Bullock is hilarious in it. I saw her most recently in The Lost City, which I didn't see the whole thing of, but I saw, I think, maybe like the first 2/3 of it. And she was just fantastic. And again, it was just all the things that Sandra Bullock is known for doing. But when she tries to go for more like serious, dramatic work, that's when I really, really struggle with her. Even in a movie like, and this is not like some serious drama, or like Bird Box. That was a movie that I saw a few years ago, and it was just so perplexing. I had a lot to say about it, but I just thought that the casting of Sandra Bullock was strange, and I just felt like she just had none of the emotional gravitas. And so interesting because she can carry comedies just effortlessly, and then she goes over into the serious stuff, and it's like she completely falls flat for me. So I'll agree with you in the sense that I think she's overrated so far as her versatility. All of the roles that she picks, I think sometimes she spreads herself a little bit too thin, but at what she's very strong at, her strengths, absolutely not overrated at all. Florence Pugh, although I think she does a fine job in the small supporting roles, most of her work as a lead or major character hasn't really impressed me. Her acting has either felt really wooden or not believable or ridiculous, especially in the new Little Women adaptation. Okay, so I haven't seen Little Women, so I can't comment about that, but yeah, I strongly disagree with this one as well. I think Florence Pugh has incredible instincts as an actress, and for somebody so young, I feel like a lot of her emotions, or the emotions that she's trying to convey, they really come from the soul. It feels very organic, or I should say from the gut. I think she carries films effortlessly in a way that is very comfortable, which is something that you want, I think, from a movie star. It's like you want to buy them in all of these different roles, but it's always them. And there's a comfort to that. And I think that she has that ability. My dad, he mentioned this the other day also, like he said that she reminds him of Kate Winslet, like a young Kate Winslet, but she's a lot stronger. Her instincts are stronger as an artist, and I 100% agree. She also has that likability to her. Kate Winslet is just charming and fun. I think of a movie like Don't Worry, Darlings, which, that's the film by Olivia Wilde. Florence Pugh is the protagonist of that film. And I thought she did a wonderful job in it. She plays a character who constantly questions her reality. She's never believed. She has to be very tough. She has to be like, a warrior in a sense, but she's also, very emotional. And it's like she's having to play all of these different beats and carry you in ways that makes it feel very authentic. And you compare her to like Harry Styles, who she's acting opposite. And it's like, yeah, you can just see somebody inherently has it and the other person is really trying to garner it. So yeah, I think she's going to be one of those actors. I don't worry about her. I think she's going to have a very long and very successful career. At least I hope so. Okay. I'm going to ruffle feathers and say Robert De Niro. He was excellent in Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, but in most of his performances, he seems to be playing himself, contrary to great actors like Daniel Day-Lewis or Gary Oldman that absolutely lose themselves in a role. De Niro is more akin to the Hollywood leading man like a Harrison Ford or a Matt Damon, who simply play versions of themselves rather than a complete transformation. If you consider De Niro's work in the 90s and beyond, it becomes increasingly predictable. His performances in Goodfellas, Casino, A Bronx Tale, Jackie Brown, The Heist, The Score, and The Irishman are almost interchangeable, really. Aside from cashing in on a slew of crime movies, he managed to make some lackluster comedies as well. So in the end, we have a career with about 2 to 3 standout performances and a pile of crime cliché films, and that's about it. Yet folks call him the greatest of all time. Woo! All right. Yeah, I do think that Robert De Niro is a very overrated actor, and I say this as somebody who, looks at the performances like Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, those sorts of things, and I admire them. I think they're some of the greatest of all time. It is all about who you know, and that's the same with almost any job, any industry. It's like when you know somebody and you can get in on the ground level, that can help you out a lot. And I think, the fact that Robert De Niro knew Martin Scorsese from a very young age, that's a huge part of why he became the actor that he was. And normally, I don't know if I would be complaining about Robert De Niro. It's the fact that people talk about him as, being this great method actor with all of this range. And it's like what you're saying here. I'm like, yeah, I agree with you. I think most of his performances are interchangeable, or at least his strongest ones. There's a gruff, no nonsense sort of edge to every single performance that he has. I was watching Once Upon a Time in America the other day, and I'm watching Robert De Niro, and he's, doing a fine job in the film, but it's like, how is this different from Travis Bickle? How does this feel different from the character he played in Casino? I just struggle with it. And that hard edge, very physical, brute New Yorker, Italian feeling that he has to him, that Scorsese recognizes, they could bring that out in the most brilliant ways, but also Robert De Niro has this incredible pathos. And marrying those two things together just created poetry. But, I look at something like Killers of the Flower Moon, and that to me is an example of Robert De Niro really standing out for the things that I think he struggles with as an actor. I should say some of his weaknesses were very on display for me in that performance, because I felt he was just miscast. And that does happen with Scorsese sometimes. It's like he has these actors who are his muses he's worked with for so long, and so he keeps using them, and I don't think necessarily he should use them. Or sometimes I do find that his later films feel a little bit miscast. And I think the Robert De Niro character in Killers of the Flower Moon is one of the most interesting characters, truly. He's got a lot of dimension to him. But I think what's very important is the way you slowly draw out that tension of understanding who this man is. And I just feel like Robert De Niro didn't really understand that in a cerebral sense. And I know he's not a cerebral guy, but he couldn't bring that tension out for us in a way that felt really tangible and interesting. And I think that this role really needed that. One of my patrons mentioned that Tommy Lee Jones should have played the part. And I could see all kinds of different, really seasoned actors in that role. But yes, absolutely, I think it would be so interesting. Ewan McGregor, I don't hate his work, not in the slightest. I also don't love it. When I watch his work, I find it to be quite stagnant. It doesn't quite hit me with the character per se, apart from a select few, leading me to feel like him being on screen could have been filled by any other Scottish actor vying for that role. He just feels basic. That's interesting you say that, because I see where you're coming from, and yet I am very comforted by Ewan McGregor as a performer. Yes, he is basic in a sense. Yes, he is somebody who I wouldn't call really distinct or anything like that. He's one of those actors who is reliable. He feels like that comfortable pair of shoes that's in the back of your closet that you can always go to, and it always feels comfortable and nice. So as far as reliable actors go, I like him. And I think it's because, again, I don't think he's some great actor. I don't see him as some great versatile artist or anything like that. But he always pushes himself, and he's not afraid to go to the places that other people might be afraid of. I love that he's very physical in his performances. He really puts himself on the line. And I don't find any of his emoting or anything to be false. Again, he's just a very reliable actor. Even when he's playing somebody like Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's like everyone in the prequels was bad for the most part, I think. Everyone. And it's like you have Academy Award winning actors in that film, and they're just so wooden, because how do you make George Lucas's dialogue good? I feel like Ewan McGregor escaped all of that. I think he did a fantastic job as Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is weird because I wouldn't expect that from him. There's a movie called Ghostwriter, directed by Roman Polanski, which I have seen way too many times. I just really fell in love with that movie when it came out. But I think that Roman Polanski understood this about Ewan McGregor. He understood he has kind of that invisible acting technique, and so he casts him as the ghost, as in ghost writer. And it's like, the character doesn't even have a name. He understands it. He gets what Ewan McGregor is about. So maybe, I don't know, it might be a nostalgia just because I feel like I've grown up with Ewan McGregor. But there are certain actors, like a Gary Cooper maybe, who are, the invisible technique and the comfort of knowing there's a reliable actor on screen can be really nice if you have the talent to pull it off. And I think that somebody like Ewan McGregor has enough talent to make it work, where it's not too basic. So yeah, those are a few of the overrated actors that you guys picked. And like I always say at the end of these, we will do another one at some point. But guys, thank you so much for watching the video. And like I said at the beginning of the video, you can look at the website, all the social media, Patreon, it's all below. Catch you next time.